Welcome back to the latest episode of Taking Charge of My Cancer podcast, episode 94. I have a really fun guest today, Joe Soares. Joe is a lifelong entrepreneur with a long track record of building and selling successful businesses. He's a dedicated husband and a father of two who cherish quality time and his family and enjoys relaxing in the pool or boarding on the lake. In February 2023, Joe faced a personal challenge when he was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. Today, he stands in a beacon of hope and resilience, celebrating being cancer free. So, Joe, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. And you're my physical therapist, basically. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. So we get to meet each other across, of course, we have a surveillance program here in UF. And so you saw Dr. Spiegel, and here you end up seeing me as a pre-op. And then you want to tell us, and that's how I met you. And I think that one of the things that, caught my attention, and like we talk about why I want you to come into the podcast, was just because it's a very small percentage of males being diagnosed with breast cancer. So I think that will be really interesting. You sharing with the audience, and sometimes we thinking, oh, I don't have to worry about that part because that will never face me. And then here we go. So you want to tell us a little bit about your diagnosis and how did you find about your cancer?
Sure. Well, first of all, I played it down. So I would not suspect that I would have breast cancer, as probably most men wouldn't. And if they're listening, yeah, it can be you. Uh, but I had noticed my some pain in my left nipple whenever I would hit it with something, like the proverbial sore thumb. So, as I was carrying groceries, carrying the entire trunk of groceries in underneath my arm, I would hit it. So I was doing something else, I would hit it and it would hurt. But really, I chalked it up as, oh, I'm getting old. It must be, testosterone problem, or, I was WebMDing it myself without really WebMDing it. But like I said, I would have never thought breast cancer. And so this continued for months. I didn't mention it really to my wife. I didn't mention it to anybody. Um, but my wife and I got a new primary care physician as last year started in January. Now, super nice guy, and he he saw us both. And at the appointment, went through all the other stuff that we have to do, that he wanted us to go through. And then at the end, he asked us both anything else that maybe could be an issue. And I thought, well, should I say it? And I did. So I said, well, it's this. So he said, take off your shirt. He looked at it. Both my wife and the doctor looked at it, and they knew what it was. They did not tell me they knew what it was. But my doctor said, you need to go to your dermatologist, because he knew I had a dermatologist right away. Do not delay. And he's probably going to want to do a biopsy. So I got an appointment within a few days to the dermatologist. And they were also like, did you bump yourself? Did you hurt yourself? Because they were trying to figure out what could this be, not thinking, again, the medical establishment is not used to men with breast cancer. So
Correct.
what could it be? An ingrown hair? What is this? But the dermatologist um, uh, did a punch biopsy, extremely painful, by the way,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and then the results came in. I think it was 2 weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks later. He called us uh, a day before my wife and I were leaving to go to my cousin's 60th wedding anniversary in California. So usually he would have us come in, but instead he said, just pull off the side of the road, sit down,
Oh, wow.
and I got some news. You're the first man I have ever had to tell he had breast cancer. Uh, and so I asked him what he would do if he was me. What would be the next step? He says, well, I would go to Shands UF Health in Gainesville, right? So I'm going, okay, well, I respect my dermatologists. They're a really nice group. And so I said, sure. So how do we do that? He says, well, I'm going to send over all your paperwork to them. and he and his staff were on it. They were like faxing and faxing and faxing, and then they call and verify, oh, you didn't get it, I'll fax it again. And this
That's
went on for 2 or 3 days, and finally I got a response back, and it was Dr. Spiegel's office,
mhm.
and they scheduled me an appointment to go see Dr. Spiegel. Like I think it was about a month later. And so that's kind of the diagnosis thing, all the way up to meeting Dr. Spiegel.
Okay, and then so I can explain a little bit, or you're welcome to explain this. So you end up having surgery, and they did what type of surgery they did?
What would that be? Well, they removed the nipple.
Uh-huh.
So what would that be? A lumpectomy or
Yep,
something? I
yep,
think they told me what it was. I just can't remember. So
yep,
they
yep,
did
yeah,
let
yeah.
me know.
A lumpectomy, yep.
Um,
Or we call it a
and
surgical mastectomy. Yep.
yeah, so they did that. So there was two surgeries. The first was removing the lump, the tumor, and then they sent everything out for biopsy, um, which I later learned that was a good thing to do, because I was told by Dr. Spiegel that it's doing it in surgery and then waiting for the result to come in is not the act. Is There's too many errors with that, and she
Mhm,
wanted to make sure she had the accurate stuff. So I'm all for making sure we have the accurate stuff. So she did that surgery, and then she sent in 4 nodes. 3 came back uh, positive, and 1 was not. And at that point, she was like, "There's not enough evidence out there. There's not enough statistics to know what do we do." But I mean, we knew 1 was bad, and the 2 others were suspect. um, Her advice was to take the rest of the nodes under my arm, which we did. And I remember thinking, after I talked to her, I was thinking, wow, if this is a mistake, uh, I I asked the Lord just to give me peace. That if this was a mistake, then that's I needed to do it anyways for peace. You know what I mean? So that I don't ever have to wonder if there's any cancer in my armpit, because it's already resolved. And so during the second surgery, she removed the rest of the nose, and unbeknownst to me, she's one of the few surgeons that actually do the bypass.
mhm,
So she spent 3 hours working on me, and did a fine job doing the bypass and to alleviate any lymphedema.
mhm.
Uh, and of those nodes that she took out, there was none cancerous.
Great.
So at least we knew.
Yep.
And so, but again, Dr. Spiegel went by the facts, right? She went by the studies. She went by what uh, would be the best future thing.
Mhm.
And so,
Yes, and I think that one thing that, so we do this thing for the audience who doesn't know, called lymphovenous bypass, where when we take lymph nodes out, the surgeon just go ahead and connect some of the veins with some of the other lymph nodes left behind. So we have been actually, we wrote a couple of papers and show that we had a decrease on lymphedema from like about a 38% if you have more than 4 nodes taken out, down to like about 12%. So it's a pretty great. And then we just do that as a standard of care. So when she's going to do an axillary dissection, that's what she does, if she can. Sometimes the anatomy or how the veins are doesn't allow her to do it, but if we can, we will do that. So I think that you are our first male patient as well that has a LV bypass, as far as I know. So I don't think we have any other after you, as far as I know. But again, we've been continue. You're part of our surveillance program, and just make sure that you're not developing lymphedema. So we see you about every 3 months, just to make sure everything is going well. But thank you
mhm.
for sharing that.
And I remember when you get involved in Shands, everything's done in-house. Everything's done in-house. And it was really quality care. I mean, everything was done pronto. There wasn't someone practicing on me, you know what I mean? They knew what they were doing. And so they give us all these doctor's visits, right? And one of them was to you. And my wife and I are, what is this physical therapy? Why am I going to physical therapy? I'm fine. I don't need physical therapy. They're not working on my legs or my arm. So I'm okay. And so we walk in there, we go, this has got to be a mistake. And then you explain that this is about lymphedema and getting a baseline.
Yep.
And people miss the importance of a baseline, I think.
Yep.
I met another gentleman. I was at his house um, doing service at his house, and I noticed he had like an ice pack on his shoulder. I said, "Oh, you heard it? Oh, I just had, cancer surgery. I got breast cancer." And his was from a melanoma or something like that that went to his breasts. So I don't know all this stuff, but anyways, I noticed that his hand, one of his arms was engorged.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, did they give you, like, did they set you up for physical therapy? You, well, no, we don't have any physical therapy appointments. It's like they're using their old medicine, right? The way they used to do things. Like you explained when we first came to see you, that the way it used to be is you waited till you had a swollen up arm
Yep.
and then you went to the doctor,
Yep.
right? And you guys are proactive, and it's a warning for people out there. Not all cancer establishments, cancer hospitals are the same.
Yep.
They do not march to the same drummer.
Yep.
I was very concerned for him, and I told him, you need to call your doctor and you need to get physical therapy. You have to get this down. And my wife told the wife about some ways of helping the husband by massaging the arm and trying to get other nodes to work and those type of things. But I mean, they need professionals. They
Of
need
course. No, that
professional help.
was really nice of you. And
But
and again, that's the whole idea, right? That's a big reason why I do this podcast and why you guys become so educated. Then you just really start to see if somebody else needs it, why not explaining, right? At least you were able to give them some information that they didn't know about it. And now hopefully they can reach out.
hopefully, and
Get
we should give them a call and see if they've had
that.
success with that and make sure they're staying on that, because that's not something that you want to get out of control. I mean, there was a lot of things that we learned in physical therapy that we hear from, other hospitals, and it's like, well, you're flying in an airplane, you know what I mean? And all this stuff and me as a pilot, a private pilot, that's important to me.
Mhm.
And then you said, well, there's not really as much evidence as you would think for
Mhm.
that, right?
Mhm.
But it was funny because we went back to California a couple weeks ago, and I left my sleeve that I was fitted for, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I left it on my side table. It should be in my backpack. And so then when I got there, I'm like, okay, I had a friend come to the house, send me a picture of what I had bought. I ordered it on Amazon, got it the next day. So on my trip back, I would actually be wearing it. Why not take a precaution? It's not so. But then I packed it in my backpack. I put it in the overhead, and the plane took off. I go, wow, I just did it again. So as soon as we reached altitude, I got it, and I put it on my arm. I put it on my arm. So anyways, that's my airplane story you know, of
Yeah.
trying to prevent lymphedema. I'm not going to like be a daredevil and
Yeah.
try to tempt anything. I mean, other things, trying not to, you know, hurt my left hand, hurt my left arm, get it scratched by rose bushes.
Mhm.
I try to protect this, and
Yep.
I'm left-handed and clumsy, so it's hard. It's like a wild child trying to protect a wild child from running into the street.
Yep. Got you. Got you. But I think that yeah, you become more conscious, and you're right. We don't have quality evidence that airplane rides, IVs, CATs can produce lymphedema on high risk patients. We have the evidence on low risk patients, so patients who has been taking 4 notes or less. That was a really great evidence that really none of that should be a problem. So that's what we educate patients with that are low risk, knowing your situation, but low risk patients, really you don't need to use those precautions, but it's up to you, right? As a
And
patient,
of course,
you choose
I'm
to
a male bypass patient as well. So, okay, so that like throws the extra thing in
Yes,
there because
ex-
I don't know of any other male bypass patients
you got it.
that there's a study for. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
and that's why I'm on your podcast to educate um, people out there about these different things. And so I was very fortunate to have a surgeon that was meticulous and spent the time to be able to make sure that I was a whole person
Exactly.
once the cancer was removed.
Great. What type of resources do you use that help you to make decisions about your treatments?
Well, like we were talking about, I didn't really have a lot of information, not a lot of guys, when I was telling people at church or friends or anybody's like, oh, I had breast cancer too, and this is what you do. It's not like that. So most people are like, what? And some people are like, oh, I've heard that's, kind of on the rise, those type of things. Um, but people, they came out of the woodwork with books and videos and all this stuff that um, I had my wife watch and make notes and read for me to like formulate a new eating plan for me,
Mhm.
where I would be eating things that were better for my body than I was eating before. I did go and get a second opinion at a different hospital, and that was because of my primary care physician said, "Oh, go check out Orlando Health. I can give you a referral." And so I did go to them, and they had really pretty offices. Uh, but it was a different feel. It was a really different feel. It wasn't as organized. It was more like, IBM or something, with pretty offices. I didn't feel care. I didn't feel love. Uh, Not that they didn't, but, we met with a doctor and his take was, well, and he was a very experienced surgeon. I mean, he was trained at that famous Texas place hospital and the head of surgery at the cancer center. And he was like, well, I asked him about biopsies. And he said, well, I do the biopsy when you're on the table, when I remove the tumor, then I take the biopsy and we wait for the results. And that's before I learned from Spiegel that that's not the right way to do. So we were thinking, wow, this probably didn't work for me. And then, so we were kind of wondering, well, should we go here or stick with UF Health? And it was still early in the process, but, and we were kind of swayed towards him because I don't like a lot of pain. So it'd be better for me to have a biopsy, one surgery. So I thought. But then we had another question for him and he said, well, I got to go find out. I'll be right back and tell you. Well, he didn't come back. He sent some underling to come back and tell us his stuff, and we couldn't ask the underling any questions. So at that point, my wife and I knew
Mhm.
that was a wham bam puppy mill of cancer place. And I wanted someone that was going to be able to listen. And Dr. Spiegel is excellent at listening. She responds with the facts. And people go, oh, well, if you have a 2:30 appointment, it's going to be an hour or two later. Who cares? She's caring for people that just found out they have cancer. Like
Got it.
that's like one of the worst things that someone could tell you.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason why she always run behind mainly on that first appointment is because that she takes the time and she tells patients ahead. I know that the nurse navigator always tell you, bring a book, bring your tablet, have something to try to get entertained because more likely you're gonna have to wait. And so it's
Yeah,
not
my schedule's not that busy. And I understand other people are important too. So I always appreciate that in the system. And all throughout the UF Health system was caring people that always took care of my needs. Like in a biopsy, I said, well, do you like have a teddy bear I can like squeeze while you're digging in my armpit? I go, because I'd like something to squeeze because this doesn't feel real good. And so they didn't have a teddy bear, but they did wound up a towel and they gave me a towel. So, and that helped because I could grip the towel and it wasn't hurting an innocent teddy bear. So it was, but even being a male in the system is different. So I have a picture of me, the women's radiology clinic, right on the first floor. I think it's women's imaging. I'm like going, I put my hand over the WO and made it men's imaging because it's like they go, oh, okay, wear this gown. I'm like, I'm a guy. Okay, it's
I
okay. I
want to
can
wear
take off my shirt. I'm not going to be scared or embarrassed. It's just so it's okay. So there's a whole culture going around with
it is.
this
Yeah.
that I'm like trying to educate them. Well, it's okay. I'm a guy. We take off our shirts, and this was a repeated thing. And even after surgery, they gave me a pink bra to wear. So all sorts of things like that. So we did take the second opinion. I consulted with my family on this, and even my brother said, "Yeah, I think you shouldn't beat around the bush on this thing, but you should have a second opinion." You know what I mean? And so we did that. And I think I was taking a little bit longer um, than Dr. Spiegel liked because I was concerning her with my foot dragging because I had never had a surgery before. So it's like trying to stab myself with a knife in my leg. It was a difficult uh,
Decision.
it was a difficult thing to do because I would rather do anything like even with, and I did have proton therapy, but even talking to Dr. Mendenhall, the head of the proton therapy, in an interview that I had with her before we started, I said, well, if protons can destroy the cancer tumor, why can't you just blast me out with the, I was trying anything. And she said, it could. The problem is it would take 50 times the amount of radiation.
Yeah, you don't want that.
You don't want that. So now I'm like going, okay. So she gave me a really reasonable response to where I'm like, yeah, I don't want 50 times. It's much simpler to go cut,
Yep.
grab, and run.
Yep.
That's anyways.
All right. How about if you want to give three valuable tips that you learn about your journey and your diagnosis, what that will be?
Well, not in any specific order, okay?
Yeah.
But I'd like to say that people that are diagnosed with cancer, they think, oh man, and everyone's focusing on that person with cancer, but they don't look at the person's, in my case, my wife, right? What is she going through? So she's going through so much, and so we got the family members are going through a lot through this whole thing, and I would like to say maybe even more
Mhm.
than the cancer person,
Yep.
okay? Because their whole world has been rocked,
Yep.
especially man having breast cancer. It's like, sure, I expected a heart attack or a stroke or something like that, but not breast cancer. And even with my DNA came back with no
Genetics.
no genetic
Mhm.
disposition to this. So I think that it's important to support the family, not just the cancer person. It's important to understand that they're like in this together. You
Mhm.
know, people see people like running for office, right? And you see the president and the first lady, right? They're like a team. And this
Mhm.
is the same kind of thing that they're working together in a team. Also, you get to know uh, your friends. You really get to know your friends.
Yep.
And our friends were amazing. They were amazing. Our our cousins came over as soon as we got back from California, and they had all these things to give us, special nuts and books and food and all this stuff to make sure that I was going to be eating well, and just was so caring and loving and praying with us and these type of things. And our church family rallied around us, and um, it was, you really see the love that came, the outpouring that came for both of us,
Uh-huh.
you know. Now we have adult children, so they didn't get to witness as much of this, but you know, they're affected too because they're thinking, what happens
Yeah, of
what happens
course.
if we lose dad, you know? Uh, what are we going to do with mom? It's like,
Who is gonna take care of
who's
her?
going to take
We
care
don't
of
want
mom? Yeah.
to.
But, when we were in California too, I had to tell my in-laws, which took me like 2 or 3 days to actually have the guts to go sit them down and tell them about this because I didn't know how they were going to respond. Were they going to go, good, you're going to die soon? But no, they were shocked and supportive and caring. And so even that, it brought us closer together. So this can be used to bring closer together. And probably the third thing is, don't lose faith. Don't think God forgot about you. God is in control, and God didn't create cancer, okay? This fallen world created cancer, and the things that we do to our bodies uh,
Yeah,
gives cancer a home. I mean, cancer is probably in every single person, and we're in our systems, if we treat them right, are battling the cancer.
yeah.
So we need to just take that in and know and have that peace and
Mhm.
just rely that God's gonna bring you through this. Okay, He's gonna bring you through it, and you're gonna be able to witness to other people. And through this whole process, even at the Proton Center, super nice. It's UF Health all the way, right? Super nice, super loving, super caring. But we were able to minister to people there. You know, my wife was able to minister to the wives that were hurting. I mean, these wives, I mean, were taking care of their husbands. I
Mhm.
mean, when we were at the Proton Clinic, I know this isn't about proton, but proton is an important thing for people to ask your doctor about proton therapy,
You wanna
because
tell us a little bit about proton?
yeah, proton therapy is described as it's like a pencil point radiation that.
Mhm.
So for my breast cancer is on the left, which my heart's on the left and my lungs are on the left, and traditional radiation would have zapped all the way through my body and then made a mess. But Proton just goes in and it controls the depth. And they draw out a whole computer plan to decide what areas they need to get. And really, the worst um, side effect is a sunburn. And I thought, wow, I've had plenty of sunburns in my life. This will be a piece of cake. Now I have to say that the sunburn towards the end
Sad.
was pretty bad. Okay.
Mhm.
And my wife kept, we own stock in ice pack companies now. So they're all in our refrigerator. And so she just would keep piling ice on my chest, and the ice took the fire. It felt like 1,000 fire ants biting my chest sometimes.
Mhm.
However, we came through it. And, and when we were, because you have to stay at proton therapy because it's 5 days a week for 6 to 8 weeks. And so you need a place to live while you're there. And we were really blessed. We found some people that gave us a great deal on a place for the 6 weeks we were there. And we drove home on the weekends to do our chores and stuff and be at home. Um, but you're out there and you're in a new town, and you're just to see all these couples really just banding together, and
Mhm.
then even all the children, they do a lot of prostate cancer there,
Mhm.
and they do a lot of brain um, uh, treatment, and a lot of children were there.
Mhm.
And if we could just have a spirit of a child, I mean,
Mhm.
these children uh, were going through a lot, but their spirits were really high. So try to be a light wherever you're at. You can be a miserable curmudgeon another day, but
Mhm.
this isn't the time. Yeah, you're in shock,
Yeah.
but there's technology now. Then there's help, and Chance has the right tools to accurately do things. And I'm not trying to do a commercial for Shands, but in my experience, when I went and got a biopsy, no, it wasn't. It was an ultrasound on my chest at a Orlando Health facility.
Mhm.
They didn't even see the tumor.
Mhm.
So then I went back, and so I'm going to Shands because I my primary had just made an appointment for me, so I went to that. And so then Shands goes, well, they had they had two doctors. I appeared to be two doctors in the room and one technician that was looking under my arm and on my chest and looking for anything, and they found it
Mhm.
because they employed the right people and put the time and effort into it. It wasn't like, oh, you're just looking at my knee for a little knee injury. No, you're looking for cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're looking for a tumor in there. So the right doctor makes all the difference in the world.
Perfect. That's great advices. How about the most painful lesson that you learned in this journey?
Probably that I since I don't have any precondition for this in any family that's had cancer, then I did it to myself. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So my poisoned myself with the wrong foods for a decade. Uh, and so once I realized I had cancer, it was a no-brainer for me to like say no, no, no to those things that I was eating. I mean, I would eat a Speedway stuffer, uh, which is like a stromboli thing, every day. I would have my big gulps. I would have Diet Dr. Pepper. I would have all these things that are not good for me. And it, I think I knew it wasn't good for me. And I think the Lord was telling me, because one sermon I gave, and it was at church, and it was about prideful and pride and sin and pride. And I made an analysis, I have a problem with Diet Dr. Pepper. It's almost like it's an idol to me, and I need to stop, right? And this was months before my cancer diagnosis. It was the Lord telling me, hey, look at yourself. And I said, this may not mean much to you guys. We all have our own stuff, but I think this just came out of my mouth. But you know what? I didn't do anything with it. I didn't do anything with it. And
Yeah.
that's the problem. So when you think that you're doing something you shouldn't, you should probably stop. That was painful, knowing that, as my kids would always say, well, Dad eats gas station food. And then that's what I would do. And that was my comfort.
Mhm.
I would save, if they were going to be closed on a holiday, then my wife would store up some stuffers in the freezer so that way I could have them. And I would be upset if they didn't have my stuffers.
Well, you're happy you're changing your path on that. So that's a very good thing.
Yeah. And so I have changed my diet. Uh, I'm probably down 45 pounds or something like that. I feel healthier. Um, and I eat healthy things. So I try to it's hard to find non-processed foods,
Mhm.
and it's hard to go to the gas station.
Mhm.
It's like a,
The
it's like
stuff
an
is okay.
alcoholic, you know,
Yeah.
driving by a bar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so you kind of already mentioned something about other male patients, but I would say, what advice would you give to other male patients in regards being aware of breast cancer, in a male population?
Okay, well, I'm talking to you men. Okay, uh, if something hurts or something seems wrong, go get it checked out. Okay, go get it checked out. Uh, Wives too. If your husbands, you notice something, make a doctor's appointment for them.
Yeah.
And just take him in there, because it'd been better to get this before it grew. And I don't know how fast it grew or how long I had it, but it would be a lot better if I would have just addressed it. I mean, it's not like I didn't go to a dermatologist. Also, another thing is, since this, I go to the dermatologist twice a year for a full body exam,
Mhm.
and it's all covered by insurance. And
Mhm.
even if it wasn't, I would still do it, because I mean, it's not a bank breaker. They don't, it's just a full body exam. They look at every little spot, they'll from head to toe, wherever you want them to do, they're going to look, and then you can prevent these things from going crazy. If I would have been doing that, this would be a different story.
Mhm.
It'd be a very different story.
Right. That's a very good advice. Um, are there any activities you would recommend during cancer treatments that they were helpful to you?
Well, I don't think I really knew much about lymphedema before you guys told me about it. I saw people with swollen up arms, but I didn't know what it was caused by. And I knew it seemed to be pretty permanent once that arm was swollen up. I mean, these people were always battling that arm. So I saw it, but I didn't really know what it was called. But I think that, uh, you know, trying to protect yourself from lymphedema by going to physical therapy. Go to your physical therapy appointments. Get the baseline. See where you are. I mean, you guys track it pretty hard, I have to say. You guys are on it, and you've got all the facts and all the data. I mean, you got not just one machine, but two machines that do it. So they cross check each other, and you're looking at how much water in the body and all these things, and those are that's a good defensive mechanism. And then wear a sleeve when you're going to be flying. Why not? Get it fitted and just be looking out for others that you see may be in need, and direct them to get the necessary help. Of course, you would want me to say exercise.
That's exactly where I wanted to go to. Yes, yes, yes.
So I will say exercise. Exercise is important. But no matter how much I reach up for exercise, I'm not getting every single spot. I'm not getting and so I learned in my last visit with you recently that I am not quite getting, I mean, I may be reaching up, but I'm not reaching up and back. And so you guys are gonna give anyone diagrams on what to do and show us what to do, and it's really up to us to do it, because I don't know if my arm will ever be the same again, which is sad, but I'm functional, and I'm not, I'm not a cripple or anything like that. I still have an arm, praise the Lord. But things are different, laying on my left side, different. It just seems to have some fluid buildup when I lay on my left side. So do what you're instructed to do. I know for us guys, it's a hard thing to do. We have gym memberships, but we don't go.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or you go and then you just do your legs, and then you do maybe your chest, and maybe a little cardio, and then that's it.
yeah. And really, what people started doing was, when you went to the gym, when I seriously went to the gym, 15 years ago, you'd spend 50 minutes working out. And you'd be working out, your shoulders and your chest, and then another day your legs, and then your arms and your back, those type of things. Nowadays, everyone, you just do 20 minutes. You know what I mean? And if I can skip the cardio, I skip the cardio. So I mean, the standards seem to be lessening, but we really need to spend more time stretching and doing those things.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think that what changed is I think that we are doing maybe shorter, but with a higher intensity. So we try to look into a higher weight, a higher reps, a higher speed, a higher resistance. So if you go high, then you're doing it on less time. So you know how life is all about time, right? So if I don't have
mhm,
the time to do it, so I think that as we try to adjust to life changes, and some people say, I really don't have an hour to go and spend at the gym, then they start coming up with, okay, if I can do the same thing if the body's going to respond the same way again, no, for exercise, instead of doing it for an hour, I do it for 30 minutes, but I increase the intensity, then you can
mhm.
get the same outcome. So I think that's why. But again, you need to have the right person to train you to do that. And
Correct.
depending
Yeah.
on, where are you, what is your background, any other comorbidities, where are you after surgery? During radiation is super important, as you know, because the fatigue and the motion and the fibrosis and all that. So, the more you exercise throughout, the better. We used to, years ago, I remember when having a patients with cancer, the doctors used to tell them, you need to take it easy. Don't do anything, and they were in bed. And then the significant others will just bring everything to them and like, no, honey, you don't do anything. You just will take care of you. And that's completely a mistake. So with years, we learned that no, that was a mistake because we just depleting what the body is able to do, and then it's harder to come back out of that. So
Hmm.
now it's all about, no, you're just going to keep up your life as normal as possible, be smart about certain things, depending what kind of treatment you're getting. But we want you to try to exercise because we know that that will mitigate cancer-related fatigue. That will help to mitigate some of those other side effects from radiation or chemotherapy. That will help with lymphedema. Sometimes people was like, oh, I developed lymphedema, I cannot move my arm. I cannot just use my arms, period. Versus now it's like, no, you can't. We want you to because exercise increase the pump on those muscles,
Right.
which will help to decrease lymphedema if you have the right garment or the right compression, if you already have lymphedema. If you don't have it, then you should be able to just use your arm like any other time.
Hmm.
So that's important.
Oh,
Okay.
the other thing I cut out of my life, it's a big thing. Sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my wife bakes cakes all the time. So, but I don't eat any of them. And you know what? There's been other times in my life that I stopped eating sugar. As a kid, I stopped eating sugar. Yeah, probably 15 years ago, I had stopped eating sugar. But now I have a real reason not to eat sugar because I'm not going to give cancer any fuel. I'm not going to give it 1 ounce of fuel, and that's okay. And everyone can eat cake around me. It doesn't bother me because
Mhm.
I'm invincible to it at this point. It just doesn't matter. And once you get over that, then you can you got to look at everything for sugar, even protein bars and all those type of things. They're really a lot of protein bars are candy bars.
Yep.
Anyways,
Yeah. Did you feel that you experienced any trauma during or post-treatment?
yeah, I think the hmm, I think that probably well going through surgery, of course, is a trauma for
Mhm.
me. Okay, some people will say I've had 10 surgeries, just knock me out, I'm good. It's kind of like a colonoscopy. They're like I've had 20 of those, it's okay, bring it on. It's that's not me. So that was like um, extremely difficult. Matter of fact, they knocked me out way before I got to the got to the operating room. They said, "Somebody knock this guy out. Just make him go away." So, anyways, and I think, uh, well, probably during the oncology stuff is another facet that's been the difficult. You know what I mean with the oncology doctor. I think the oncology doctor when my wife and I were there said, well, when the breast cancer comes back, it'll be terminal. And I thought, wow, my wife's chin dropped and hit the floor, and we're like, what are you talking about? Breast cancer coming? Well, if you get it in your foot, it's called breast cancer. And so I think that's to us that was like a trauma, and I'm like going, so what do you mean terminal? Well, she says it's treatable terminal. I'm like, what does that mean? I lie in a hospital bed and have morphine until I die? And there was no real good answer on that. So some parts of this has been very confusing and uh, like tamoxifen. So I have to have tamoxifen for 5 years, and nobody could answer how is this working.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? What is this stuff? What's it doing? And I learned from you guys, where's the baseline? How
Mhm.
do I know tamoxifan's working?
Mhm.
I don't.
Mhm.
Finally, one doctor, and I don't remember which one, it was a guy, and he told me, well, it doesn't matter how much estrogen you have in your system because tamoxifen blocks it from doing anything. Now, I could kind of, I don't know if that's true, but it was at least a decent explanation saying, yeah, I could be a muscle man, but there's a metal wall in front of my muscles, so I can't get to you.
Mhm.
So that was probably hearing that kind of stuff was was traumatizing. I almost think it was more traumatizing for my wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was like, yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Mhm. Is any one question you wish I will have asked you and you will have answered to wrap up?
Run that one by me again.
It is one question you wish I will have asked you and will you have answered it so we can wrap it up?
Oh, okay. Well, um, I don't really have any questions for you.
Yeah. No, it's one
So,
question that another question I didn't ask you that you
okay.
feel like that will be of value.
Yeah, I think that they say you are what you eat, and maybe that's truer than we think. So we need to treat our bodies like the temples that they are, instead of filling them up with junk. And take care of ourselves. Not that we worship our bodies, but it's a quality of life thing. If I live to be 100, do I want to be able to walk? You
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
um, so that's what I would say. I mean, just really ask all the questions you want of your doctors
Mhm.
and take notes.
Mhm.
Take notes, and um, just don't lose faith. It's going to be all right.
Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I think that definitely you're making more people aware of, like, again, this is not just a female type of diagnose. And I think it's important, like you say, guys tend to just really suck it up, right? Like, oh yeah, no, I have a little pain here. I'm not gonna complain until something major happens. So I really appreciate you willingness to share your story. And I think that that will be really helpful for the audience. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. So we hope that not many more men have to go through this. So let's catch it early if we do.
Perfect, perfect. Great, Joe. Well, you have a great rest of the day and thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.